Hey, Gloucester Township. I'm Joe Allen, and this is the Restored GT podcast. Over the last few months, we've talked about the Board of Education election that's coming up on November 8th. And in talking about that, we mentioned that we wanted to interview some candidates. Right away, 3 candidates reached out. One candidate was already sitting next to me when we came up with the idea. So we have so far interviewed 2 candidates with Jennifer O'Donnell and Dina Hendry. And it's Mr. Keith Gibbons' turn. So
that's me, Mr. Keith Gibbons.
I'm sure you guys, if you've followed along here before, you
may have seen me here.
You know Keith a bit. So I guess for those that haven't paid attention or watched this podcast before, tell us what you're all about.
So it's difficult for me to talk about myself. So give me a second here. Yeah, it feels a little strange too because it's a different dynamic than what we're used to doing. Sitting here next to each other. But my name's Keith Gibbons. I'm a resident since 2006. I'm a single father who has a daughter in C.W. Lewis. I am an entrepreneur. I have several businesses. I've worked for, publicly traded companies. I've put on massive festivals that most of you know and didn't realize that was me, doing that kind of thing. I got involved in coming out and, just getting involved with the township and seeing what's going on. Because as my daughter was getting older, she started asking questions, and I said, let's go see, how our government works and where roads come from, which was what the question that she, asked, and who pays for that. So that's kind of what got me involved in going and seeing what actually takes place. Someone else said recently, you hear people talk about, all this stuff that's negative of things that are going on in the town. You think that they're conspiracy theorists, but once you go and see, you see that they're not conspiracy theorists. That all this stuff is actually true. And it makes you, well, not everybody, but it made me want to get more involved in seeing what the inner workings and how things go, and getting involved in how can we change that? It's not just for, it's not for me, it's for the community. It's, I'm a big advocate for everybody else in the community benefiting from something, not just myself personally.
Did you get involved, I think, probably around the same time I
did?
Yeah,
we were around the same time.
We started
about 3 years ago or so.
I think you were probably outside of I think Sam, who I knew when Sam reached out. You were like the first stranger, I think, that reached out and was like, hey, I'd like to do something,
right.
Get involved and what's it all about. And I think we kind of learned this process together of going to council meetings and then you branched off to doing BOE meetings. And
well, that was one of the things, that because I have, a child in the school system, I, was very interested in that and seeing, what goes on there. And, the problem that I saw with it is the Board of Ed is supposed to be a bridge between community and the school system with the teachers, the support staff, everyone there. The board's the bridge, and what I saw was a wall that was stopping any kind of communication from the community and getting into the school district, and seeing how budget and money flows in from the state and other things. Everything is about money, and that's what drove me into saying, it's not about that, guys. It's about us, the community. It's about the teachers. That all needs to be bridged together, and that's what the board is supposed to be there for. So last election, people that I had met going to, other meetings had different focuses of council, but it was more personal to me in, the Board of Ed because of my daughter, and just seeing that it seemed like no one really cares, about the school district side of it. It's always, our taxes go up, they blame council. When in reality, the budget in the school surpasses the municipal budget, by a lot. And it's when I hear that there's no money for this or no money for teachers that, bring them supplies. Why? Oh my God, have you seen how much money we get and is spent in there? And it's, in the more digging that I, would do, was just seeing ridiculousness of, things like our insurance policy going to Connor Strong and Buckalo, who was, it's a company where
familiar name.
If you Google that name, just Google Connor Strong Buccalo Insurance, Pennsauken. There was an article written about that town could have saved over $1.6 million in a year if they had just went with the state's program, not even shopping it out. And then when you go and look and see how our school board puts it out to vote on, there's a no bid contract awarded, and then in questioning them, there's all the things that the statute says need to be part of this, how someone can be a no-bid contract, being as it's unspecifiable, or service that they're providing, that they can just be awarded it without being put out for bid. But then when I questioned the Board of Ed, what is it? And they answered within 5 seconds that it's an insurance broker. Oh, okay, so it is something specifiable. You just specified it in 5 seconds. So how are we, not shopping this out for bid? And at that same time that year, all the teachers and everybody had changed in their insurance plan, which messed a lot of them up, and they weren't happy about it. And here's why: it's because we were worrying about a pay-to-play vendor being rewarded with something over that. Now, all that money that we're overspending for using that particular vendor just came out of the pockets of everybody else in the school that needs that for raises, for bus drivers, for teachers, for everyone else, and the taxpayers. It's their money, whether it came from the state side of the budget or from the community side of it. And that's the kind of stuff that just really irritated me with the wall being built between, and we're supposed to be a bridge, and how can we bridge that gap?
So I guess that covers the why portion.
Okay, you had a why question.
Yeah, generally we'll ask people what made you want to run. That's an excellent description of why you wanted to run.
Yeah.
What do you think makes you any different than any candidates or current school board members?
Oh, I mean, everyone's a different person, but in my past, and even in my current, I have several. I have 1,500 employees at a time. In the past, I've worked for publicly traded companies and been responsible for budgets that are well exceeding the school budget, solely responsible on a publicly traded company. So I'm very familiar with that. I'm very familiar with listening to all sides of things and coming up with what the best solution for something is. I don't have any kind of preset things that I need to stick by or not listen to somebody. I can take it all in, process it, and say, okay, this I might not agree with it, but this here is the route that we need to take. And it's not like I'm an auditor for something. I've done that, or some other job that's within the school. And I'm not diminishing those jobs at all, but I'm saying from a perspective of the scales of things that I've done in my past. I mean, I'd put on festivals with 60,000 people in a day, and have how many different government departments you have to reach and deal with, and all those different pieces, and putting it all together. So I understand how all those things work, how they need to work, how they work to their benefit sometimes, and then also how to make listening a priority. I'm not, even if I'm in charge of it, I'm still just a regular human being that just kind of knows how to get things done. And that's one of the things that I think is kind of hard for me in a lot of settings, is the climate and culture that I come from is that of, like, say a concert world, where even if you're the top person in charge there, you just have regular clothes on, you fit in like any other person walking amongst everyone, and you have the ability to make things go smoothly, or have the responsibility if things don't go smoothly that everybody's looking to. And I've carried that weight for 20 years of my career, and it's a role that, or it's a position where, again, like where you're kind of dressed down. I don't really own a suit. I go to a meeting, somebody might take that as offensive that I don't have, what I mean? But it's not. I'm not a politician. I'm not going out there dressing up as a dressy thing. But either way, I guess I'm getting off topic. I'm rambling a little bit here. I think your question was why I can multitask like nobody's business. Like I said, I own several businesses. I have a farm in Oregon, like across the.
What?
When I own a business, I don't own a job. I own a business. I know how to manage different people, have people follow my leadership to get them to do what they need to do, and also give them the autonomy to make a decision around what's the right thing. And if they don't make it, they're it's not the end of the world, but there's somebody there to correct them, like me, to say, okay, let's try to go this route here, which. Is another.
I forget. I think it was like a fuel injector business that you had.
Yeah.
It just like came out of nowhere, and I'm like, where does this even come from? Like,
yeah, I know. You're the busiest person I know.
There's so many different things that you do, and I'm like,
yeah,
man, this guy's involved in everything. I just.
Well, that's. I mean, and it's the time that it takes for each of those things is you have to be aware of what your abilities are. And I know with all the busyness that I have, I still know I can put the time in on the school board. My daughter, for instance, she did gymnastics for, a good part of her, early life before it got to be super competitive. She was state champ 2 years in a row, but she had practice for 24 hours a week. And I was there every hour of those practices, amongst doing all my, my jobs, businesses, and everything else. And it's so things that are a priority to me, I put the time in. Like where you say, like, you're still at every count. If it's a priority to me, I'm going to make time, and I'm going to figure out how to make it happen, because I have the support staff, whether it not be, say a family, for instance, but I have people that can help me pick up balls that are falling in certain places to focus on the things that I need to focus on. And, it was 2016. I actually retired, from work, even though I still had the businesses, but I got bored and had to go, back to work.
Well, I think that it's, I think that I'm personally pretty amazed at the amount of time that you already spend in the township doing things. You did the nonprofit stuff. You were trying to help out with downtown Blackwood. You tried putting a festival together, which I believe really kind of lit the fire under the township to kind of take that back and
so
and
that
do
was
that themselves.
A learning experience. In attending council meetings, you see some people go up there with not, I'll call them, the gotcha questions kind of thing, like attacking. But there's legitimate things that people bring up in town, and someone had gone up more than once, not just one person, but asking about the farmers market that used to be in downtown Blackwood. I heard that, I don't know, 3 times maybe at different council meetings. So I said, you know what? That would be literally like, nothing for me to go do. Why not go ask? So I went to the clerk's office and asked, got some information about like permits and stuff like that they had to pull for, the state start shutting down the road, and just different, I guess, somewhat background behind it. I started doing some research on it, found that there was a nonprofit that did it in the past. I spent hours talking to other farmers markets, asking them, what do I not know about running a farmers market? I've never done, that part. Put all the time in, and I got to the, meeting the mayor to talk about it, and then it was kind of just pulled from me and saying, yep, we're doing it ourselves. And it's Gloucester Township's farmers market. And I said, okay, it is what it is. But beyond that, there were other things I did in the township. I'm a Rotarian, so I'm part of the Gloucester Township Pine Hill Rotary. We do a lot of good stuff for the community. I did, like I started up a nonprofit organization to to help downtown Blackwood, which I've been somewhat deterred by continuing that from my experience from the farmers market, just realizing I'm not going to get anywhere with the current situation.
Yeah, it is. We will hopefully one day we will all kind of break down those walls and open it back up to the community. I guess you sound pretty independent, and I know you pretty well enough to know that you are pretty independent. But people ask, are you backed by any organizations?
No, I have no backing. I mean, that's, to me, like, the school is not a political position. It's not a, in a column of, red or blue or 1 or 2 or whatever the column called. But No, I'm not backed by anybody. Anything is paid out of my own pocket. This is a non-paid position that we're talking about here. And in the past, the last time I ran, I believe it was $90,000 was the amount of money that was spent on non-paid positions. So that kind of tells you something. I mean,
yeah, we talked. I think I talked with the other two candidates that were here about the money that was spent. And one of the examples that I used was like these flyers that have come in the mail, and the expense.
Oh, is this the congratulations one?
This is the congratulations.
Congratulations! We did none of this stuff, but here, congratulations.
Yeah, that was.
It's amazing.
That was the weird thing too. Their campaign name on Facebook is Restoring Values, as if we've lost our values, but then they're also congratulating us on, I guess,
Right.
great values. So maybe they want to restore bad values.
I think they realized that it was a really bad move, the Restore campaign
They took
that they
a
started.
name from a great group of people.
Yeah.
So, so there's a lot of money behind that. Somebody on Twitter actually reached out and sent me their donation that they received at the end of September from another PAC that's backed previous
This current
machine. $10,000.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot
I'm
of
sure
people,
it's more than that. That's just that one donation.
That was one donation for $10,000. It is a great. It's great now that we've built ourselves in the community for 2 years, and people just kind of do work for us now and help us and give us information. So it is kind of cool to see people stepping up and saying, "Hey, here's where this money's coming from too." So, so you're not backed by anyone. This is all.
No.
This is all you doing that. So, I guess as far as the township goes, what challenges do you think that the Board of Ed faces in the next, in the next year or next term?
I mean, they're currently with staff as an issue. We're not paying the same as other towns are. So I mean, it's pretty hard to attract talent when you're not paying the same. Somebody can go a town over and make more money. That's a big challenge that we're going to have, retaining the people that we do have. I mean, that's just the climate in the world today, which is, I want to do a little bit, and I don't know this, and something maybe on the board you would learn, but like, who actually is responsible for that? Is that a human resources function, retaining people, reaching out, finding other talent? Who actually does that in there? I mean, in the corporate world that I was in, human resources sort of morphed from kind of doing that to, the managers are supposed to handle those things, so we're going to stay out of it. It's we're just here to make sure that the I's are crossed, or the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that's our role, not so much the actual staffing of hiring those people in. So I'm kind of curious in the schools how it does work. I haven't had a chance to look into it too much yet, but I mean, that's one of the big challenges that they're going to be facing.
And I guess there is a toss-up in the community. If you're a passionate teacher, and you love the community that you're teaching in, but when bigger money comes up, you've got to also think about not just your community but your family too. So I could see a good teacher leaving, and you wouldn't look at it as, well, they're just greedy and they're leaving. I mean, they have to think about their own families too. So
it's what kind of climate that you're providing for that employee to work in too. It's not always money with employees. Like I said, I have tons of employees. There's employees I could pay half of what they get paid, as long as every day you tell that person, you did a great job today. You know what I mean? So and same thing with the teachers. They might just love the children that they're worth, but they might hate the climate of I can't even go to so-and-so for this, or this always comes down to us as a directive instead of and there's that kind of a climate that you have to account for too. It's not always just money.
So we've talked about the wall that is kind of up between the citizens, and we've even talked about org charts in the past where residents are kind of missing. Transparency is an issue across this township, whether it's with municipal government or even Board of Education. So what steps do you think we should take to improve transparency?
Well, there has been, and I know I get kind of knocked on giving credit to, to things
Yeah.
on certain times, because I'm, again, pretty balanced and see all sides of it. But it has gotten a lot better, seemingly, from when I first started going. I haven't been around as long as, as other people, but I know that it definitely has gotten better with the new, Zoom calls, whether I might think that they're absolutely, it should have been done a long time ago. They're being done now, so you can't really knock it. Can they get better? I'm sure they can definitely get better. I mean, I sit there like when, there are the last meetings at Ann Mullen, and there's right behind the dais of board members, 2 big speakers, and there's a microphone and an amp and everything right there, and you can't hear anything that they're saying. You say to yourself, I don't understand. How is this even possible? Like, the simple question is, how hard would it be to turn that on and put the microphone down? Or we figured out a podcast here. How, I don't know the first thing about any of this stuff. You don't either.
Yeah,
we just put together. Yeah. We have IT guys that we pay. We have that knows how to use that piece of the equipment right there. We're right sitting in the audience. It's that kind of stuff with the transparency. You have to just look at it and say, if it's not intentional, then it's incompetence. I mean, there's no other 2 ways about it, in my opinion.
I've thought about that before too, with as far as the technology goes, and I'm thinking like, I just want to go up there and tune it, and
right.
The $149 camera that was purchased 20 years ago that's hanging off the wall in the council room. Right. Like, we could do so much better.
Yeah.
I've done so much better in my basement.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it is and it's not that we don't like spending money in this town. Yeah. I think it's just that we don't like putting that information out there. The less that we put out there, the better, I think, is the kind of the motto of the township. So.
Yeah, and that's the the other thing with the transparency. One thing that drives me nuts is a member of the public gets up and asks a question, and an attorney answers our question. I didn't elect an attorney.
Yeah,
I need you to sit there and be there to interject if there's a need to interject, not to answer every single question. How about the elected officials, or elected, the board members, answer the question? Why is an attorney answering the questions for us?
Why is an attorney answering a question like an attorney also? And
right.
Yeah, and one of our elected officials is an attorney who answers things like an attorney.
Yeah.
But I think in that situation, with Board of Ed, I mean, I think it's great that we have several parents running this year too, and I think that's kind of what makes you and so a few of the others unique is that your parents that are hoping to sit there to represent the parents that are sitting in the crowd too.
Right.
So as far as on the same kind of topic, how much power do you feel that the board has over, say, the administration?
You're talking about in the schools. I mean,
yeah.
They're who hires the superintendent, so they kind of have that power there. I'm not sure I understand the whole question when you say, what do we feel the power? I'm not 100% sure that you can answer that, because you're not the only person. You're one of 9 voices that are up there.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I have no power. I have just my one vote. I have as much power as the next person next to me or the next person. So the more people that are not, backed by our political machine, and if you see, vote no to machine politics, that's the more people that are not part of the machine that work for a pay-to-play vendor or are, I won't even get through how all the nepotism all works, but yeah, the more of those that are not up there, we can vote and have the power to do things that are right for the teachers and the community, which we're the bridge to be. And that's kind of my
well, I think there is a bit of power just in the fact that if you had 9 individual opinions when anything comes up for vote, rather than, I think, 2 opinions and then 1 big machine opinion where they're all together. So
right, that
is what makes this year. What makes this year important? Is there anything that stands out this year that you feel is?
I mean, I think every year is important. Everybody should pay attention every year. But this year, for me to answer that question, would be, it's very close to being able to kind of be taken back from the machine, and that would be very detrimental, to their control of a budget. When we would have the ability to make decisions that they might not, have liked, it only hurts them, and that's it can only be helpful to to the taxpayers and the teachers and the parents and everything. It's a not out for the machine, it's for everybody else's best interest. So this year there are 3 seats that are up. Mm-hmm. One of the seats is Jen O'Donnell, who I would vote for. She's been on the board doing kind of the same philosophy as me with this, fighting against the machine and making it more about the teachers and the parents and taxpayers. You have another board member who is not rerunning for election, and then you have another board member who is rerunning. So if there were Jen to get back on, if one more person got on out of the additional 2 seats, that makes the power and the tide shift of where who's controlling our school board, and it's back to parents and
back to parents rather than just the machine that controls it.
Yeah, so that's why it's important to me this year. But it's important to everybody this year. It should be.
When we talk about the power behind the machine, we have to talk about the flyer that we just got in the mail.
Yeah.
And it was a flyer came in. I guess it was maybe 2-3 nights ago. So it was a flyer that talked about you and Dina Hendry being bad choices for the community, and this was written by 2 of our councilwomen, and then paid for by one of the PACs that put that funds our mayor. So
who is the wife of the town solicitor and who is also the chair of the housing authority.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it was a huge overstep by our elected officials to attack 2 parents. Not just for, somebody had mentioned, well, man, they're attacking these parents on the parents exercising their First Amendment right by asking questions of their government.
And as a councilman, it's not like they said this is our personal opinion. I know, our constituents here that elected us, this is my personal opinion. I'm not as a councilwoman. As a councilwoman, you're supposed to be representing, whether it's those constituents that you sent that out to. I'm one of them as well, and Dina is one of them as well. So you're supposed to be representing us, and you're sitting there talking trash about us, saying that we did this or the other, bold-faced lying.
That's the other thing too.
I'm innocent until proven guilty. So show me the proof that I said any of that, or I even stood up at a council meeting. I think the only thing in there that they have a thing to get out of is that I attended their council meetings. It's not their; it's a public meeting.
They did use the terminology their council meeting.
Yeah, their council meetings. What?
Yeah. So this one really bothered me because I've been going to council meetings for several years. I think as long as you've been going, and I'm not a go up to the mic and speak kind of guy. I think I've done it like once, and I don't want to have the back and forth. I don't want to get into an argument. I say what I say, and I say it here.
That's your First Amendment right.
I know you're the same too. I know you kind of sit back and kind of take the notes and
at Board of Ed meetings, I'll stand up and speak and ask questions. It's a different climate than it is in the council meetings. I'll leave it at that.
It got me because they talked about you going to their council meetings and asking questions, and I could not find a single instance of you ever asking a question at a council meeting.
No.
So
planning board or zoning board, I've asked. I've talked to at the Board of Ed meetings, obviously, but never. But I have attended their council meetings.
Yeah. So we have.
If that's the truth that came out of that entire thing, guys, yes, I did attend their council meetings. So I apologize. Apologize to all you people out there.
The only thing I could think of was you and I have talked about lack of transparency here, and the one of the we got into basically when we started this podcast, one of the biggest things that was happening was the Brittany Woods project. They are revitalizing Brittany Woods, and there was a lot of questions coming from other residents, not from you, but from other residents about funding and different where basically where the money was coming from, and nobody cared whether or not they redid this. Everybody was kind of in for like, let's better the community.
Yeah, I mean, you could put a link to the podcast that we did in the comments on this thing here, and you could timestamp. I mean, here's the comments.
The best thing that I could find
actually said the opposite of everything.
Is you and I talked about the questioning there, and we summarized council meetings. I mean, that's, if you've never watched the podcast that we do, we summarize the council meetings and we talk through things. So that their take on that was that you oppose all of this, and I thought, man, that is disgusting. I can't wait for people to get questioned about this, because it was an attack from our elected officials, attacked two parents, and I thought it was disgusting. So
that was great representation.
It was one of the main reasons why
I'm really gonna have to rethink my vote when I have to vote for them.
Yeah. So I guess, one of the questions that came in, I threw some questions. I threw a question out to residents a little while before starting these interviews. And one of the questions that came in late was, what have you done to prepare yourself to know about the issues facing our schools? And I think you've kind of almost answered that. You've been involved.
Yeah, just being involved. I mean, being a parent, having a kid in the school, knowing what she comes home saying. It's not every day I pick her up from school, what happened in school today, and she, we have a great relationship. We talk all the time, and she tells me everything. That's how I learn a lot of the student side of things. I have, again, like I said, from my past of having, and current, I have many people that work in the school system that also, work for me indirectly at another job, and there's a dialogue happens all the time, and in going to those meetings, people see you and get, like you said, like people come up and give us information for this podcast that we do. People come up to me and contact me all the time with issues and problems and stuff like that I have, and there's times I've had to tell people, like, I'm sorry, that's not something like anyone should or could do anything about, and here's why. And I mean, I'm kind of used to doing that with other things, but people try to come to me already with issues as if I can fix something for them, but I can't until I.
Yeah, you are you seem to be pretty well known now. I know through going to different pumpkin festivals, people immediately know you now. Right. So you've gotten that. I'm jealous.
Well, I think that's part of why
nobody knows who I am.
That's part of why that flyer went out, attacking, because they don't have something good to run on, so they're going to attack the biggest threat, I guess, that they see, which would be, I guess, Dina and myself. I don't know. I'm assuming something's going to come out about Jen, or maybe they can't do that because she's already elected. I don't know how that
works.
I think everything's fair in in their world or their mind.
The flyer for Jen is probably going to be that size.
Oh, really?
So it's going to be But well, I mean, back to that though. I mean, I would say congratulations on them.
I made it now.
Realizing who you are.
Dad, Mom, I made it.
Yeah, you can.
I'm on a hit
I would,
piece.
I'd take that and I'd frame it because you've gotten their attention. You and Miss Hendry both have gotten their attention.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that it shows how scared they are that parents want to get involved.
Yeah, that's
right.
amazing.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. They are you're messing things up for them. And I think it's great as just a regular old taxpayer and regular member of the community. I love seeing people do this and get involved, and without these big...
Well, I mean, it's not something that I wanted to do. I don't want to do this. There's no one else doing it, so I have to get up. That's why I feel the not the pressure, but the obligation, because I can't just sit by and let other people get stomped all over by this machine and have to pay taxes. I know that, other people, say, oh, they deserve it because no one's getting up and doing it. I'll just move. Well, I'm not moving. I'm not going to move because I don't agree with something. I'm going to try to make a change. And maybe changes? People get behind me and maybe they don't. But either way, I can sleep well at night knowing that I'm trying to, to do the best for my community.
Any changes that you think that you would make that were tried or at least obviously can't make a change without other votes, but is there any changes that you had in mind that you thought that needed to be made right away?
No, I mean, we already spoke about transparency as a big one for me. I mean, it's not hard to be transparent. Like, to my thing, the question of how hard is it to turn that microphone on there? How hard is it to be transparent? It's not hard at all. You could, okay, we're doing a recording of a Zoom. So we're on a platform which was created to have people interact. And we can't do it live. We have to use Zoom to record it to then play it back later. Why can't we use it to have people interact and ask questions that are put on there? I mean, something as simple as that.
Yeah.
That takes literally zero more effort to do than what we're currently doing now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So my biggest thing would be transparency, and simple little changes like that can be done pretty easily. But residents asking also does help. You know, there's a woman, Terry Fretz, who's gone and fought for schools for quite a long time, and she's the one that kept hounding them about the Zooms and the recordings. Showed a whole list of other schools that do it in other districts, and they they caved. Now that could be part of the change that's happening on the school board currently, where there was a change of presidents. I don't exactly know how many months. I don't even know what month we're in right now, but it was a few months back, and things have actually changed. There does seem to be more dialogue. Like, there was the other night at the school board meeting, the bus drivers that came, they were allowed to somewhat speak their piece. They know they're not going to go all night long. They know they're not going to go forever. But you go back a year ago, and there was the kill buzzer things. There was the business administrator had an alarm set on her computer. She'd hit the button. You had 3 minutes to say, I don't care what you're saying. That alarm, I'm sorry, your time's up, and just dismiss you. Similar to how council was run. But like that meeting the other night, they were allowed to speak their piece. The one woman that got up was allowed, I don't know, I'm guessing here, but probably 10 minutes at least, 15 minutes maybe, and basically spoke for everyone that was there. But she covered everything that they all wanted to to do. But she was allowed to do that, is my point. Like, so there are things that are that are changing and moving in a good direction, and I think we need to keep that momentum.
Excellent. In closing, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
This was really awkward to do an interview with you, who I do a podcast with, but I appreciate the time. I'm sure somebody will watch it. Hopefully they get something out of it, and please vote for me.
Yeah,
we have other candidates that are independent out there running as well. I'm just gonna leave it at look and see who's out there talking, what their messages are, not just messages on a glossy flyer or a hit piece.
Yeah.
So.
Well, excellent. And these great signs are still available,
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yep, you can reach out to go to the Restore GT and just say, hey, give me a sign at this address. I'll drive by, pop it in the ground.
Yeah, hit us on the Restore GT Facebook page. You can email me, joe@restoregt.com. I will just send me your address. I'll forward it on to Keith. He can send them out to you. I think he delivered mine at like 2:00 in the morning one night. I woke up in the morning and it was.
I don't sleep, Joe.
It was there. So, folks, like it says, it doesn't say November 8th, but on November 8th is the election. Please make sure they come out and support our independent candidates. They're community members, they're parents, and that's all that they have behind them is just that's their motivation. Yep. So November 8th, share this out so that other people may find out who these candidates are. And thanks for joining us, folks. We will see you soon.